Okay, Sanbona. Namhlanje I would like to do let's dive into T distribution. Yabo. Let's have just a basic introduction to T distribution. So for T distribution, I can say it is an alternative to a normal distribution. Yabo. When certain conditions are not met, normal distribution, with Z distribution, we tend to use the T distribution for certain things, for certain inferences. Yeah, well. So, okay. Something about T distribution, which is something new, is that T distribution has something esibiza ngama degrees of freedom. Yeah, well. Degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom, it is more like freedom onayo. It's the number of values which can vary freely. Yeah, well, it's the number of values that can vary freely. Mara ukuyazi ama-degrees of freedom ukuthi ayini, it's not quite important. You just know ukuthi wathola kanjani. Yabo. So ama-degrees of freedom for in its distribution, we get them by saying n, which is our sample size, minus 1. Yabo. Minus 1. Indlela esistandardize ngayo ama-values T distribution, we have x bar minus imini sidivide nge-standard deviation manje. Standard deviation se-sample asadivide nge-standard deviation se-population. Yabo. Also divided by square root sa n. We do this because kwesinye isikhathi we may not know this about the population, but we may not know a population standard deviation. But if we do not know a population standard deviation and we have a very small sample size, we tend to look at a T distribution for inferences about the population. So in other words, if we have n or less than 30, if n less than 30, lento le follows this follows a T distribution with n minus 1 degrees of freedom. Okay, and then we look at properties a T distribution. So my properties a T distribution, they are quite similar to properties a normal or T distribution, like a shape yakhona and a symmetry yakhona. So we have ibukeka kanje distribution yakhona. Ibukeka kanje, it is bell shaped just like EZ distribution, a bell shape, and it's symmetric about imini, which is equal to 0. Same thing like a Z. The shape yakhona, it is a bell shaped. So it's a great alternative because there's not much difference between the Z distribution. And the shape noma ngithi like the shape your curve yona it depends on the degrees of freedoms. It depends on the degrees of freedom. Mese ngisizoza ngilento le. It depends on my degrees of freedom. Like as my degrees of freedom increase, this shape noma ngithi this curve tends to get narrower and narrower. Yabo, angibuke kanje. You can have this flatter curve. You can have this other curve, and I should have used different colors from the get-go. You have this different curve. So the curve, this smaller curve, can have the lowest degrees of freedom, and in a peak enkulu yabo, this is more narrow, it has the highest degrees of freedom. So we are going to see this is one property yabo. These are the properties ongawosho normal distribution, which it is bell shaped and it is symmetric about meaning no zero, and the shape of its distribution depends on the degrees of freedom. And then let's try and compare. Okay, same thing njengama T distribution, njenge distribution inama tables nala T distribution. We also have ama T tables, which shows which give us a cumulative probability njengalamanye nje ama table bese siwabhekile ngaphambilini. So look at the general shape. Ama T ngithi nama T tables la ngithi ngizoba nama Z tables. So ama T tables iform yakhona ebokeka kanje. La uba no alpha, which is the probability, and then on this side you have degrees of freedom, which are denoted by UV, and then la ngaphana you have your T values. And then you get difference arises now. Probabilities. These are the differences in the tables of Itina and Z. And how it denotes the T tables, it is T with V degrees of freedom, and alpha, which is a level of significance, normally your probability. As we go along. And into which you may notice about our tables is Z distribution. They only give us a area, normally a area in a probability enkulu. Sneakers like area in a probability enkulu. Here's the T distribution, and as you might see, tables, table you only have values of alpha, the probabilities from 0.9 to 0.995. We have values of alpha, pale, and here you have your degrees of freedom, and lana you have your T values. And then for degrees of freedom, which are denoted by infinity sign. You can actually say, you would see, as a degrees of freedom approaches infinity, Leo value Leo, it tends to fall, or it tends to be similar to a value Z. But we can just use Z tables. Because and we'll find it's more or less the same. It's for large degrees of freedom. UT with infinity degrees of freedom, and alpha is just the same as Z. Wow, alpha. It's just one notation you can keep in mind. For example, let's try and use the T tables to find probabilities. ne? So let's find the t value that has an area of 0.975. Let's find the t value which has an area of 0.975 to its left when our degrees of freedom are equals to 11. So we are given what our degrees of freedom are 11 and the area value it is 0.9975. And it's just what the area 0.5 yabo, so greater than 0.5 kusho ukuthi i-area yonke iziphumelele nangale yabo, lo u-alpha olingana no 0.975 yabo. Ngibheka le value le la le uT, shuthi ngibheka uT with 11 degrees of freedom and u-alpha 0.975 ne. Ngiyahamba ngiyoma tables ami ngilocate ama degrees of freedom awu-11, ama degrees of freedom awu-11 nawa la yabo, and u-0.975 now lama values lawa hlangana kaphi ku 2,201 yabo. Usho ukuthi le value lena uT with 11 degrees of freedom and alpha 0.975 is equals to 2,201. Noma ngisi le value la it is 2,01. Let's look at another example. I'll redraw it. But to find the t value that has an area of 0.05 to its right. About 0.05 to its right. So zubukeka so. What is 0.05 to its right? We should see error and should low 0.05. So ama tables its distribution awasinikeza i-area to the right yabo, asinikeza i-area to the left of le value le, asinikeza le area le yabo. So ukuze sithole le area le mele sithole ukuthi le asinikeza usithole le t value engapha, noma ngithi t value ne probability engapha, kumele sithole ukuthi i-area le ingaphi ngakanani yabo. Shothi ukuze sithole le area ngapha so 1 minus the area engapha, because the whole area has to add up to 1 angithi. So lo is equal to 1.0,05 so sinikeza 0.95 yabo. Shothi mina kahle kahle ngibheka uT with 9 degrees of freedom, basitshelile ku statement so degrees of freedom of 9 and alpha 0.95 yabo. So ngizwa kuma tables ami akathi ngiye ku degrees of freedom of 9, my degrees of freedom of 9 now, and the 0.95 will on the second row. So my values are showing up 1,833. So the value le kati with 9 degrees of freedom and 0.95 is equal to 1,833. Yabo. And then you kungenze ukuthi kungenzeka ukuthi sibe nento kanje yabo, kungenzeka ukuthi sibe nento kanje whereby you have your table, you have your graph and bakunikeze i-value ka alpha engapha lencane nje yabo, mhlawumbe bakunikeze u-alpha one like uthi i-value ka t any area to its left encane, mhlawumbe nje 0.05 for example yabo. So asithi lo uT of alpha ne, due to asymmetry awelingana no 9 yabo. Ibheka i-value ka t enama degrees of freedom awu 9 and alpha ka 0.05 ne, degrees of freedom awu 9 and alpha 0.05. Mara due to ama tables ami athi mina angikwazi ukuyithola mina le value la yabo, athi mina angikwazi ukuyithola i value la. So ukuze ngithole le value la I should try and mimic the t value, ngimemekele ngale ukuthi ibe ne area enkulu yabo, area which is at least 0.9 equals to uT with 9 degrees of freedom and 1 minus alpha 0.95. Mara leyo value leyo uzomele ibe negative yabo. So ngizobheka le value le ku table yabo, 9 degrees of freedom and 0.95 and then mase ngenza ibe negative. For example, for example, nginangu 9 ama-degrees of freedom awu-9 nawa la yabo, and alpha 0.95 wona lo. So ngapha 1,833 or negative. Yabo, not that noma ngithi i-negative sign ngifake la, yabo, ngizofike ngibheke ingapha ibe kanje 1,833, and then bese ngibuyisela ngalena kuzomela ngiyenze ibe negative kube 1,833 or negative, just due to symmetry, yabo. So ngamanye amazwi uT with V degrees of freedom and alpha uyalingana the negative version of uT with V degrees of freedom and a level of significance ka 1 minus alpha, yabo. Niyo formula ongasuyikhumbule le to find your values, yabo. Azizamenini futhi this. So la bathi find the value ka T, and the T value with that has an area of 0.975 to its right. So ikanje in an area of 0.975 to its right. So mara mina ke degrees of freedom alingana no 16. Asikwazi sisebenza nge-area to the right, yabo, thina sisebenza nge-area to the left, yabo. So ngamanye amazwi we're looking for uT with 16 degrees of freedom, lo beku 0.975, so it's 1 minus 0.975 into 0.025, yabo. So ngibheka uT with 16 degrees of freedom and 0.025, mara 0.025 asinako ama-tables angithi due to formula yethu siyazi level le is equal to negative version of uT with 16 degrees of freedom and ngizothi 1 minus alpha ngizobe 0.975. Ngizobheka le value le uT positive with 16 degrees of freedom and 0.975 bese ngiyitholile ngizoyifayenza ibe negative. So ngiyahamba la ngiyoma degrees of freedom awu 16 nawa la and 0.975 nawo lama values lawa ahlangana la ku 2,120. So 2,120 mara o negative, yabo. So le value le is equal to negative 2,120, yabo. And then sengenzeka ukuthi like ube nawo ama values of uT, ufune ube nama values of uT nama degrees of freedom, ufune ama values of alpha, yabo. So ngamanye amazwi we want to find the probability that uT is less than 1,74, yabo. 1,74 i value yaka T, yabo. So we have ama degrees of freedom alingana no 17. 1,74 i value ka T which is found within the table, yabo. So ngizwa into ozoyenza uyaba ama degrees of freedom awu 17 kubheka ukuthi 1,74 ungakuphi, yabo. So ama degrees of freedom awu 17 nawa la and 1,74 uyabona ukuthi ula and correspond ne value ka alpha e 0.95. So i probability that T is less than 1,74 is equal to 0.95, yabo. So we can also work backwards, yabo. Let's try and find something else. City, we have my degrees of freedom alingana no 10, and you want to find the probability that 2t is greater than 02,228. T is greater than 2,228. So this is change 1 minus the probability that t is less than 2,228. So 1 minus degrees of freedom of 10 ngibheka 2,228 ukuthi correspond nobani. Degrees of freedom of 10 now la 2,228 now la or correspond no 0,975. So lo it's equals to 1 minus 0,975, which is equal to 0,025 as our value of alpha. Hope that makes sense. And as all distributions, now we see now Excel. Let's say you want to find the value of alpha, now the probability that 2t is less than some value b. Le is equals to t dot dist. Can I make it landscape? Yeah, I think this will work. So we want to find the probability that t is less than some value b is equals to t dot dist, and my parameters kuba i-value of interest eqaleni, which is your b, kulandele ama degrees of freedom, and then kuzoba true, since if among my probabilities they are cumulative. This is how you construct Excel. Or you want to find the value of t, value like t with v degrees of freedom and the value of alpha. In the lines of t dot env. T dot env ufake i-value of alpha and your degrees of freedom, which are denoted by v, v ola. And that is it about t distribution. It's a distribution here. This is useful when we want to construct a confidence interval for my chapters or we want to do hypothesis testing. Or want to do hypothesis testing. So when I'm just feel how exactly it works. I hope that's made sense.